Hey guys, we are on day 153 in our Bible reading plan, and today we are reading the book of Song of Songs or Song of Solomon, and we're reading it in its entirety, chapters 1 through 8. So verse 1 starts out and it tells us that this is the Song of Songs, which is Solomon's. And that's a Hebrew idiom. That's a way of saying something like when they say King of Kings, Lord of Lords, it is the greatest of the great. Song of Songs, this is the greatest of all songs, which is Solomon's. And this collection of songs, the greatest of all, is love poetry. And it's meant to be read all together at once. There isn't a structure that breaks it up easily into smaller chunks. It's just meant to be read as one long group of poems together. And as we're reading through, there are some themes that we'll see as these lovers are seeking one another out. There is a commitment to uprightness, to purity. There's a moment toward the end of the songs that she says that what she has to give is hers to give. It's hers alone, and she gives it freely to her lover, to her beloved. And as you're reading through, you're going to see this pattern where the lovers are looking for one another, they can't find each other, then they come together, and right when things get really steamy and you're wondering if you should keep reading, it starts over again. And so there's this commitment in the text even to a sense of purity, to a sense of uprightness, even in their desire and longing for one another. So it's really interesting that we have here a Song of Psalms. The greatest of all songs is a collection of love poems, and people have interpreted these a lot of different ways. Some people read this as an allegory where the woman is Israel and the man is God, and it's Israel seeking after their God. Some have interpreted this as a depiction of Christ's love for his church and the way he loves his church, which Paul talks about in Ephesians 5 in the relationship between Christ and the church resembling the relationship between a husband and a wife. And then there's also just the interpretation that this is a collection of ancient poetry that is reflecting on the divine gift of love. There is a lot in this as you're reading through that obviously you're not supposed to read it exactly. Some of the descriptions they give of one another would be weird if that's really what they looked like. Some of these things were supposed to reflect on what those images mean. And there's a lot of symbolism as you read through, echoing the images in the garden, the idea that Adam and Eve loved one another, desired one another purely, selflessly in the garden, sort of echoing that time when love and desire were expressed selflessly, and ultimately reminding us that love is a gift pointing us toward God. And as I was reading through this poem, this collection of poems today, I just was really struck by that first line, that this is the Song of Songs, that of all the Psalms we have, of all the songs written in the Bible, that this is the greatest one, and that the greatest collection of these is about love and about longing and about that desire. And I find that really interesting. It reminds me of 1 Corinthians 13, where Paul talks about the spiritual gifts, and he says, all of these gifts you could have, whatever you desire to have, the greatest of all of these is love, and that none of the other things matter. And just the idea, the juxtapositioning next to the life of Solomon being someone who asks for wisdom, Solomon being someone who ultimately makes an idol of wisdom and seeks after wisdom even more than he seeks after the Lord at some points in his life. And just the idea that the purity of this love, that love is the greatest thing that God desires from us, for him and for one another. And it just reminds me that we're meant to desire the presence of the Lord and to long for it the way these lovers desire and long for one another, to be always looking to have that sort of enraptured desire at the presence of God, that like when you wake up, you're thinking about the presence of the Lord. When you're going about your business, God is still on your mind. That type of love and desire for God, and knowing that that love, even according to the New Testament, is greater than all of the other gifts that we're given, to express that love toward one another, to use the gifts that we're given in love, under the guise of love, under the covering of love, and the importance of that, and how just being able to do that, ultimately it echoes a time of loving one another selflessly and giving of our gifts selflessly, sharing God's love with others in purity of heart. God's love has been given to us, but it is also ours to give, and to give freely. to one another. So that is what the Lord is speaking to me today. I hope that it encourages you as you dig in. I just pray that the Holy Spirit would speak to your heart and that God would reveal His word to you and His truth to you as you're reading through this today. Be blessed and have a great day, guys.